Hello, you've reached Raphael here on the Movie Rage Show as well. And Matt Hill as well. Mike, it's great to be part of the show. Cowabunga, dudes! No, it's okay. See you later, sparkly people!
It's time for the movie raid, and tonight's victim is Matt Hill, voice actor that did the voice of Ed from Ed, Edd, and Eddy, has done Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, of Raphael, by the way, as many others. Hello.
Hello, is this mic on? Is this Mike? Good to be here, Mike.
Always a pleasure.
Mike again.
What's going on?
Well, we are going to talk movies, Ed, Edd, and Eddy, Ninja Turtles, and anything else that you would like to talk about.
Awesome. What's your favorite Ninja Turtles, Ed?
Well, I'd probably have to say, let me think about it a little bit, but maybe Raphael.
Why specifically Raphael, though?
Well, in completely self-serving ways, I got to play Raph a couple times here in the illustrious franchises, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and, so we've had quite a long relationship together, he and I. And, as I've gone forward in my life afterwards, I've used a lot of the time, the example of sort of what, the different turtles stood for. And, Raph kind of always stood for the underdog. He would be the guy that you'd be looking out for people, but he'd be lurking in the dark, and he wouldn't come in until, someone really needed help, or, he'd help an old lady cross the street, but he wouldn't tell anybody about it, right? He just had this very deeply caring personality and stuff for justice and, fighting for the underdog, right? So I just, kind of dug that about him. It's kind of neat, in the inception of the Turtles franchise that I was part of with Turtles 3, it was really cool, the collection of guys that they did, put together to play the Turtles, and, we all kind of take on their personalities, and interestingly enough, when we, all got to spend so much time together, you kind of realize, wow, man, they've cast it really, really well, because our personalities, we'd find ourselves in situations where, like Leo would have to be the peacemaker, and we were actually filming in Astoria, Oregon, and one night we all just the Turtles, we went out and just cruised around and walked around, and, it was kind of like a scene right out of a movie, which was kind of wild. These kids were bullying this other kid, and literally without even blinking an eye, us three Turtles, who are the actors playing the Turtles, but we all kind of jumped into action to, just kind of talk this situation down, and Mark Kasser, who was Leonardo, he literally, he was standing there kind of just like peacemaking between them, going, brothers, it's okay, you guys don't need to do this, you can find another way, and just me as my personality, I was just kind of waiting, just to kind of looking at the fringes, waiting to see if anybody else jumped in on it, and then I jumped in, right? It was pretty wild. It was like a really cool thing to be part of,
But you having to reach to network status in terms of voice acting, is it best to carefully choose the kind of line of work in voice acting at this point?
That's an interesting question, because I think if I'm hearing you correctly, it's like almost like pre-choosing, okay, this is the kinds of roles that I'd like to play. And I guess to that, I guess that's what makes acting, such an incredible art, right? And in a way, sometimes the parts that even societal-wise, might kind of, shake a stick at it and go like, oh, no, that's horrible piece of humanity. I often applaud the actors and the actresses who, choose a really risky role, right? Or, choose to, play a role, but it's standing up to bring light to, a situation that we want to change as human beings, right? I think right now, obviously, bullying, from kids at school and cyberbullying and then the Me Too movement as well. It's I believe that as a society, we're showing ourselves all these areas where we want to evolve, right? So I think being able to bring a light to it, to be able to show the darkness of it, ultimately helps transform it, right? And so not an easy choice for an actor to make, especially if then, let's say they're going to be, paid like a significant amount of money, and then, if they're, say, a lot more famous than, say, I am, or, where that really does make a difference to them being part of the cast in terms of, the marquee value, right? It's, I think that once again, as the level of, say, awareness grows about all these things, like I say, I applaud the actors and actresses that choose to do stuff like that. If you're talking like adult films and all that, different, that's a whole different topic of conversation. It's I think that's, it's, I don't know. I don't really have much to say about that, because I don't really partake in that kind of stuff. And, I guess the roles that I get to play, again, I've been really blessed to be part of, some pretty popular franchises of, different things. Like, you look at Ed, Edd, and Eddy. And it was amazing to now, 8 years later, be told again and again by, whenever I get a chance to meet fans at, say, conventions or, other speaking events that I do, of the, unbelievable significance that, the Eds had on them having a tough childhood or not believing in themselves. But then, watching, say, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and, my character specifically going, and Raphael taught me that, I could believe in myself and that it's okay if I kind of felt like I didn't fit in, but my gifts still were, as important to lend to the world, right? I guess that's what I've loved is, I guess I've been doing this for, I'm in my 30th year. I can't believe it. That a few years ago, I was part of a run that we did around North America. And in that, we met about 50,000 school kids in 220 school presentations by running a marathon each day around the continent. It was called Run for One Planet. That was where I got firsthand, these thousands and thousands of kids and their teachers, telling me, going, dude, you guys literally changed our lives and you made our lives better. And so, I finally got the light bulb moment where I was like, oh my God, I went from being just grateful for having this really cool life and the things that I call my work. But then it kind of took it tenfold, being told how much, say, some of these roles and some of these voices really helped to elevate and impact, say, the people that were, choosing to say how much these roles had changed their lives, right?
Yeah, and not only that, to not get a big head of yourself, having, all this attention coming your way. Of course, it's temptations. It can be really hard to not get a big head, but at the same time, you kind of, check yourself as wait a minute, this is... Think about how you got started and where it all began. And
yeah, but I guess what's the thing is it's all free will and it's all choice, right? So I mean, if let's say I get more fame than say I have right now, let's say, I'll have a choice in every moment there forward from realizing this is still a gift, getting to do what I get to do, and now it's in a much more elevated state. So hence, let's say, they put a star next to my name or something, right? My choice to be able to then go, okay, well, how do I want to treat people moment to moment? Because like you just said so perfectly, you can't get away from where you're from, because that is the truth of who we are, right? Is where we come from. And so I think sometimes that's the journey being on the human marathon of life, as I kind of call it. It's we're all trying to evolve. We're all trying to make the world a better place, even if we're not consciously thinking that we are. But I believe that we are as human beings. I think even like that, just even from the low-hanging fruit of, if you get a big head and, you get a bit of an ego, it's your friends and your family first that hopefully will go like, hey, blockhead, we know where you're from. You used to have acne and you were, you weren't very cool. So your friends and family are always going to be those ones, I think, that are first going to say like, hey, dial it down there in the ego department there, dude. And sometimes a big old ego allows the fans and they go, hey, no, we want you, I don't know. I think you said it perfectly. Everybody's on their own journey, right? As a way to check myself from prejudging someone as well, especially someone who's super famous. Because sometimes we have no idea what they're maybe also dealing with. I totally agree too. It goes back again to, it doesn't matter if you're super famous, whereas everybody recognizes you on the front of People magazine, or if you're just famous in the in the comfort of your family and friends in your hometown. I believe it still is the same level of responsibility for every human being to just make a choice and say, okay, I'm going to choose to be a nice person, not because I'm famous or not because I'm not famous. You know what I mean?
Now, you've voiced in quite a few of family-friendly cartoons and other TV shows. Cartoons are kind of easing up to the more personal topics, so the whole bullying and there's sexuality. What are your thoughts that cartoons are kind of moving into this type of direction a little bit further?
Yeah, well, I go back to that thing again. It's I think that's a very courageous thing to do, because sometimes these topics are really hard they're hard to talk about, right? They're hard to find a way through without, say, just automatically having it's bad and this is horrible and this is good or this is bad. Because there's all these different, I hate to use that term, but it's there's all these different levels and colors to it. So, because everybody has a story around, on both sides of, say, every single issue. My sense is, because it's all coming so front and foremost in especially let's say the Me Too movement and, and bullying. And it's like, I think, again, it's like what I said before. It's like, I believe it's us, going, okay, we're going to show all this stuff because this is the stuff we need to evolve and transform for us to be able to literally treat each other better, right? And differently, so that, kind of like, I remember hearing a story back in the 80s, when, gang violence was on the rise in Los Angeles. And the, LAPD took a bold move, and instead of waiting till kids were in sort of like, middle school to go in and teach them about gangs, they hit them at like the third grade level. And, apparently at the time people were outraged, going, what, you can't go in and talk to, elementary school kids about rape. And they're like, that's the time when you need to catch it. That's when you need to get them to know, here's what's going to be going on, and I think it's the same sort of thing, especially say from a guy's point of view. We need to be able to talk about like early on about how you treat a woman, how you treat another human being, right? So that ultimately, I believe this is where, this is maybe the dreamer in me, but this is what I passionately believe. It ultimately becomes not a question of, say, Me Too, say, with women being, abused or men being abused just by the other, but it becomes either like human beings not abusing each other, right? So everybody grows up knowing I'm going to be treated with respect. I'm going to, say, sexual sovereignty. I'm going to, have my sort of, domain around, say, my body, where I can say, yes, I invite you, or no, I don't invite you, and it's just not an issue, right? And in a way, we're in kind of like the scrappy bits right now, because there's so many things that are, I believe, coming to the forefront, right? Because you've got the your president right now, who you could say a billion things about, and it just even shows there again the divide, say, and that's just one country. Right? Doesn't matter what your political affiliation is, but it's showing kind of like, again, these beautiful cracks where everybody has the opportunity to bridge that gap between people, right? I don't know if that makes any sense.
I believe, like, sometimes you just need a reminder. People just need a reminder of, like, instead of, apparently talking just face-to-face has been really bad for the last half a dozen years now. But expressing it through a character, like through cartoons, like especially toward kids or even people who are handicapped, get an idea, and that's the point. Get an idea of what the issue is really about, and hopefully it'll get to the higher up, and maybe something will happen. Like I mentioned, like with the bullying and stuff, and hopefully some of the stuff will improve a little over the years, just because of these cartoons or represented in a specific film or something.
Absolutely, and I think that's where. That sort of say like the classic cartoon superhero, right, was always the defender of justice, the defender of, say, the planet, or just the defender of people who couldn't defend themselves. It's entered a whole new era, right, where like you said, I think it's a great medium to be able to share the message and be able to empower kids, especially, right? So yeah, no, I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, and do you think it's a little bit of a personal challenge to you on a daily basis? I know you've been in several films before, but mostly in voice acting. Do you think it's always a personal challenge to you every day?
Oh God, no. No, God, I'm stoked. I'm 30 years in here, and I still do a backflip whenever I get a gig. So, that tells me I'm still doing the right thing. And the only time I get frustrated is if I go through a period where I get that feedback. Oh, yeah, it's such a great read. Oh, you were so close. You didn't get it. Oh, you were so close. You didn't get it. After 5 of those, it's like, come on, I want another gig. Because, well, one, it keeps the fridge full of food, and I eat a lot of food because I train a lot. But also, too, it's just like I love what I do, right? And so sometimes when I'm super stoked to audition for something, and let's say it doesn't go my way, I'm stoked for the person that they cast, because ultimately you get the cast that were meant to be together, and those that weren't, it's okay. You get it in different shows, right? I'm a firm believer there's room for everyone, even you, Mr. Mike, when you decide to be a voice actor.
One day. How do you keep yourself from repeating the same type of theme every time you do a character?
I don't know. That's a great question. I have no idea. Because sometimes the stuff that comes out of my mouth, like my vocal cords for different, shows, I have no idea if that's a repeat or, obviously lot of the voices would be sort of like, just me, but a bit younger of a version, right? And then as I've gone along, I've, obviously, I think playing Ed definitely was the first big departure, in saying, doing a voice that, wasn't, say, recognizable to, say, my own speaking voice. But it really gave me a lot of liberty, for those 8 seasons to just play, especially a character like him who's so, like, comes out of nowhere with, like, if you think about it too much, it's like, what? But, I think sometimes it's like realizing when maybe you're rehashing the same, reads. If you, like, again, that's always, like, say, in that standpoint, I'd say the actor, right, to be able to go, okay, well, how can I continue to develop, say, my instrument so that I can try some different stuff, right? That's always the constant. That always keeps you new, keeps you fresh, keeps you inspired, and also, too, it's always a balance between, because sometimes you're getting hired again and again and again and again because they can trust that, Matt Hill is going to come in and he's going to kick butt, doing this voice, right? So a lot of the time, that also is what, we end up getting hired for is, the consistency of the instrument, right? Because up here in Canada, our sessions are generally they're about 4 hours long to do. I'd say one episode of a pre-life. LA, I think it's pretty much the same. So they want to know that they're going to be able to get the cast and get them recorded and get them done with not too many mess ups, right? So it's always that balance because then also there's times too when all of a sudden you'll be like, wait a second, I didn't get that gig, or I didn't get called in for that. And, I've heard that before, too, when they're like, yeah, well, we kind of wanted somebody that kind of sounded like you, but we wanted somebody that was different, even though they wanted them to kind of sound like you. And that's when you just, that's all, you can't do anything about that, except, like I said, go back to square one and go, okay, well, train, do something different, so that you come in with some different voices, or, let the cycle kind of go through, and then you come back again, right? I mean, it's all cycles, though. Wouldn't you agree? Look at television. Look at movies. Look at, it's like, what do they call it? Like, look at fashion. It's like, what is that, like 10 years or something?
Yeah. Go ahead and plug in anything that you want to address, any websites, anything that you're working on.
Yeah, well, we just finished, I guess, what is it on Netflix? It's either 3 or 4. I can't remember the way that they released them, but I had a blast on a DreamWorks Netflix original called Dino Trucks, where I get to play the Blue Truck Ton, which was kind of like my alter ego. Is just like me on, total, like, too much coffee or, too many Coca-Colas if I drank pop. It's just, like, super fun to play, and, the kids are having a good time watching it. And then I just about to start on another project, but I'm not allowed to talk about it, unfortunately. And then also, I was involved, as I was saying earlier, with a run around North America in 2008, 2009 called Run for One Planet. And so that was where we were meeting with primarily school kids, in the 11,000 miles that we ran across Canada and around the perimeter of your great country. And it was all to inspire environmental action, right? And so now as the tour, it's year number 10, we're going to be going out and running and speaking to more kids again. So taking all the lessons we learned, say, about kids and the environment and then their fitness. And now the new mission's going to be called Fit Kids for a Fit Planet. So maybe we could talk again sometime when we're out on the road somewhere running around the States, because it'll be a similar type of effort, but it'll be broken up into almost like sections of, say, the way a band does a tour. So we'll do like the West Coast, and then we'll, say, do the East Coast, and different places like that. So, but yeah, if anybody wants to check it out, they could go to my website, matt-hill.com. Or if they wanted to learn about the Run for One Planet story a little further, they could go runforOnePlanet.org. And check out and come say hi to me on Facebook. Or I'm not a huge on Twitter, but if you say hi on Facebook, I'll find you.
Well, there you have it. That is Matt Hill, voice actor